Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. We are back.
Yay! And oh my gosh, this is some of the best stuff. I love these rabbit holes.
Yeah, I'm looking at all this stuff, putting all this stuff together, and just singing a little song in my head. This world is crazy, crazy.
And that song, How Bizarre, How Bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff that is coming out now. We've wondered, why don't we have flying cars yet and stuff? Those of us that grew up in the 70s and maybe even the 80s, watching things like the Jetsons and stuff. Well, I think we're going to be blown away by all the technology that's coming out, now and in the next 10 years, but maybe not exactly what we were hoping for.
I know, I just really hope to see things at least cleaner somehow.
So here we see brain-altering bioweapons to DNA surveillance, experts already preparing for the next biological threat. Yeah, there was also a report we were talking about of like a killer fungus coming out. There's also other viruses going on there's always this stuff going on. There's always, always, always. When we think about it, I could view this entire world as being like the island of Dr. Moreau. Do you guys remember that movie?
I do.
It feels like this entire world is one big kind of experiment.
Oh, yes, one big creep fest.
Of course, we got the plague upon the land, but you could see the headline. It's is it seed planting? Is it truly just preparing, or is it laying the groundwork? What do you guys think?
Well, they got to give us the information it's predictive programming.
Yeah, DNA testing becoming more fashionable, and then we saw that 23andMe was getting bought out, and then we saw that there was so much info hijacked from like 80% of Americans, their medical information, being hijacked and by a certain fine dining ware country.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
So you think about that, and then you think about this, right? That's it. That's it in a nutshell. And as we see here, the fine dining ware country has already used blood sampling to target the Uyghurs. Wow. This is like, and this whole video, I don't know if it's gonna make it or not, but that's why we're trying to be so careful.
Yes.
It's very much like what we saw happen with WW2, with the experimentations and stuff that was going on. Now this feels like it's a global version. How about robot motherships to launch drone swarms from the sea, underwater, air, and near space?
Yeah, so they've had this all along.
Yeah, so last week, Louisiana-based shipbuilder Metal Shark announced the U.S. Marine Corps had selected them to develop a long-range unmanned surface vessel, 11-meter robot boat capable of operating autonomously and launching loitering munitions to attack targets at sea and on land. The unmanned boat is just the latest of a series of new platforms for launching drone swarms. The tiered, scalable weapon system will provide the ability to accurately track and destroy targets at range through the battle space, according to Metal Shark's press release. I've shared with you guys the visions I had, and I took it to be kind of like an alien invasion scenario going back to the 80s, of seeing actually ships and being able to see down into the ocean and see that there was countless ships in the ocean, countless in the sky. But we might already have all that now. We could have just fleets of UFO looking saucers that are actually all made by us. Yeah, we wouldn't really even know. Maybe that's where some of the missing trillions have gone.
Yeah, that's what I'm really feeling, is that so much of this is already in place.
And again, it's another one of those, it's all of the above scenario. Just because there might be a Project Bluebeam that shows a fake alien invasion doesn't mean there's not aliens. Right. It just means that they might fake an alien invasion. So, again, too often we take one side and throw the baby out with the bathwater instead of seeing, that, I mean, they can definitely make things look like we're getting invaded by aliens. And it might not be the case, but again, there are aliens too.
Right. And it's all about conditioning and directing our attention to where they want it to be directed.
So, new AI can detect emotion with radio waves. So they could detect your emotion. This is Defense One. They get some pretty interesting stories, and kind of delve into DARPA-ish type things. So if you were walking in a public place or whatever, and you just had a stressful fight or something like that come up with your loved one, and maybe the the powers that be, I was going to say the CV police or somebody, just singles you out because they're reading your emotions and maybe they think you're going to do something. But no, you just had an argument with your loved one. And, this is like wild technology. This is getting into, what was that? Was it Minority Report? Was that the movie where it was predicting people that were going to commit a crime and arresting them before they ever did? Just because they were predicting that they were going to?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly which movie that was, but I could see this going on clearly where they can gauge people just by their frequency. So if you're someone who's a sensitive or an intuitive person, they'll be able to know right away.
Well, that's something that I feel. I feel there's always been witch hunts throughout history. There's always been witch hunts, and the new witch hunts will be looking for people that are very gifted and sensitive. And I think that's part of what's going on right now. That's part of the bigger picture, because we were talking about in the last video how there's new species that we're finding left and right now. There's mutations occurring. Our DNA is restructuring. We found cases of 3 and 4 strand DNA that they even admit to now. Yes, we're changing. We're waking up. Our consciousness is expanding. They know it, and some can detect it. I bet you.
Yep, here we go. This is crazy stuff.
It is. There are national security and privacy implications to an experimental UK neural network that deciphers how people respond to emotional stimuli. And so it just says, basically picture interrogators, like we were saying, interrogating somebody. And they're going to know by their response, by their emotional response that's coming through by radio wave. That is just wild.
That's just wrong.
Yeah, and these guys, now this is a little rover. This is Laser D, animal-like robot that can crawl, crouch, and disinfect to fight the plague upon the land. They're using things like this too for, defusing bombs and things like that. But I just brought this up because I wanted to reiterate for you guys that hadn't heard us. When we left Nevada and we were in Vegas, we saw 4 things like this that were the size of tanks on top of a big truck. There was 4 of them. They were bigger than a pickup truck. They were more like heading towards the size of tanks, with these 4 legs, and they were robotic. I mean, want to talk about creepy.
Well, yeah, I mean, it felt like that they wanted them to look intimidating for sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, can you imagine those things patrolling your streets? I mean, it's just like a Terminator movie. So, by the way, President B cancels Elon Musk's adventures in space. No more adventures in space for the Musk man.
Too bad. I'm sorry.
So the new president is making his space policy increasingly clear. America is going to be grounded. That's interesting, isn't it? Because, here we see is the fine dining ware country preparing to blitz the moon. Yeah, in a big way as well. So leapfrogging ahead of, Rus and the USA is the fine dining ware country. It feels like it's almost like when there's a race going on, and maybe a party has been bought out, and or fighters when they're paid to throw a fight. That did happen in the past. It might even happen now still occasionally. I've seen a few fights. Like I saw Cowboy Cerrone when he fought against McGregor. To me, and I know you get hit by somebody in the MMA, especially somebody like a Conor McGregor, it could take you out quick. But it just felt like that was a fix to me. And, I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but they were trying to, make a comeback for McGregor because he draws the biggest crowds, so he's a controversial guy. He means the most money. And so the fix is in. Somehow I feel like the fix is in when it comes to all this that we're looking at right here. I feel like one goes with the other.
It definitely has that tone to it, I must say.
It sure does. And Mark Zuckerberg says that we should be teleporting, not transporting. Virtual and augmented reality could help staff work remotely, permanently, and chat about the latest Facebook tech on social app Clubhouse. Well, I think it's great that people could work remotely. I do. And so, you're going to put on your virtual headset and go to work and feel like you're in the office. Or maybe it'll just get to the point where, you don't even need the headset. All you need is one little thing that's just inserted right there below the ear. And, that's it. You're done. You're hooked up. You're part of your neural net is part of the bigger net.
Yeah, then you just sort of connect the link and there you go. Boom, you're in the office.
We see the way the tech is heading. And meanwhile, with everything going on, there's a lot of people that are getting desperate. There's going to be a lot of food shortages. And we've seen so many floods and you name it, fires. The crop losses are mounting. We got the locust plague going on. We were talking about today too. Well, put the chicken in the bag. Armed bandit robs Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. And that's it. He just wanted a supersized number 1, and he was off.
I think he probably earned it too, maybe.
This is a crazy world that we're in, but you are going to be seeing, more crazy things like this as we go into these times deeper and deeper. And, we've wondered and we've talked about the GMO seeds. We've talked about all this sort of stuff. And that perfect storm that's a wee bit too perfect. Meanwhile, we see Americans gave up citizenship in record numbers in 2020, up triple from 2019. That's a huge increase. Yeah. Triple from 2019. And I think this year I wouldn't be surprised if it triples or quadruples as long as people can actually get out.
Right. That's the thing. It's, getting out, getting somewhere.
Yes. And, it's because you get tired of the system. You get tired of the way things are going, the direction. And sometimes it gets you to the point where you say, we'll give it a shot somewhere else. Yeah. It's just that, simple.
It is, but at the same time, you have to stop and think with the way this is going down, this is a global issue. So are you out of the frying pan into the fire?
Well, yeah, perhaps you have to really do your research and watch. I mean, certainly, you can move from Seattle or Portland and maybe go to somewhere in South Dakota or, maybe somewhere in rural Alabama and be a lot more out of the fire, so to speak, when we see everything that's the unrest that's still going on. Even though, you would expect things to maybe die down, or maybe they're simmering, or maybe they're going to explode. We don't know. We don't know. There's all these potential triggering events that could happen. But at the same time, there are generalities. If you're able to go somewhere where it's perhaps a little more rural, you might be able to bide yourself some time and get yourself set up in a little bit more of an off-grid scenario than if you're in the middle of NYC.
Yeah, there's a lot of weighing and watching and learning and looking to do.
And we see different responses from different countries to everything that's going on. In some countries, it's been just, amazing unrest. And in other countries, we've talked to people that, things are pretty normal, really, Besides seeing masks, everything else is going along pretty much as normal.
Yeah, so it's, just different here and there.
So I just thought this was an assorted bunch of interesting items, to say the least. So guys, as always, make sure you're subscribed. Thank you for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. If you need to set up an appointment with us, it's EEARTS at ProtonMail or evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com. And Cindy is going to give us a tuning on the way out to get us cleansed of any sort of spiritual parasites.
Right. Find a happy place. Here we go. God bless and namaste.
God bless and namaste.